Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a Thirsty Thursday edition of The Sweat. I'm Emerson Latzia. Oh, man. Sitting alongside absolutely nobody because Jesse Cofield is once again on vacation. But we're going to have a damn good time today. What's at stake on a 15-game NHL slate? A 9-year-old kid carries the Bulls to victory, and which teams to back for match week 31 around the Premier League. Let's start in baseball, because betting baseball is easy. You're looking at the night slate. You wake up, you place a wager on the Tampa Bay Rays on the DraftKings Sportsbook, and then you profit. DraftKings contributors Steve Buchanan and Gary and Thorne are here for a fun little game of Put Up Your Buke. Steve will give us his favorite plays on the slate. Gary will then put up his bukes and pivot to another play, because in the words of Gary, I never agree with Steve in this segment. Real quick, bukes, listen to this. Since 1900, the only teams to open 13-0 were the 82 Braves and the 87 Brewers. Do the Rays get it done at 1 o'clock against the Sox?
Yeah. I mean, why not, right? Like, the Sox are just, they look horrible in these games at this point. I mean, the Red Sox are, a team that people didn't have a lot of high expectations for. I still think it's a team that can go over their win total, but they're kind of showing the lack of moves that they didn't make during the offseason, and how this team is pretty razor thin if you're not Rafael Devers or Yoshida. So I think this is kind of a team that is going to falter once again here in the early game.
Yeah, Gary said yesterday they can't go 162-0, which they can, likely won't. When does the streak end?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like Steve said, no Yoshida, no Devers in the lineup today for Boston, so you don't really like their chances against Jeffrey Springs. Then they'll get to go to Toronto and face a real baseball team. However, the two pitchers they get to face in Game 1 and Game 2 of that series are Jose Barrios and Yusei Kikuchi. So I'm thinking they're going to go 15-0 at the very least.
Now, gentlemen, we kick off our highest rated segment here on The Sweat, presented by DraftKings. Put up your bukes. Steven, best pitcher to roster in DFS tonight. Who you got?
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of Reds love in this segment. That's probably why Eric Halterman didn't join us, because, boo-hoo can't talk about his Phillies in a bad manner. Well, too bad, because we're going to talk about the best pitcher on this slate tonight, and it is Nick Lodolo. And I'm sure Gary is very upset that he has to pick somebody else, because why would you not be picking Nick Lodolo at 9,400 tonight? Yes, he's the most expensive pitcher. I don't care about that. This is a strikeout machine. He has already racked up 21 strikeouts through just 12 innings pitched against the Pirates and then the Phillies, who he's facing for the second time. In that start against the Phillies, he induced 15 swings and misses in that game. He was absolutely money in this. And if you haven't seen the slider that basically goes down and hits the opposing batter's feet, but yet they're still swinging, it is absolutely nasty. Now, to be fair, Phillies have been hitting well to start the season, but they're also striking out a ton. A 26.3% K rate to start the year. That is the 5th highest in the league. With the way that Lodolo is striking out hitters right now, I think he's going to be way up there with the strikeouts again. Wouldn't be surprised if he reaches double digits in this game.
Gary, and this is when you put up your bukes. Have at it.
I mean, Emerson already did a spot-on impression of me earlier in this show. But as we know, I can't agree. Even though, by far, Nick Lodolo is the best pitcher on this slate, has the highest ceiling on this slate. I mean, Steve talked about that massive strikeout upside he has with just some devastating pitches. Sticking with younger pitchers, though, let's talk Johnny Brito. He's $7,700 tonight going up against the Minnesota Twins. The book on Brito seemed to be that he wasn't a strikeout-oriented pitcher. At least he hadn't been in the minor leagues. However, we've seen some encouraging signs in his first 2 starts with the New York Yankees in the regular season, and really all throughout spring training with Brito. He's only allowed 1 earned run in his 10 innings of work so far this season. He's got an 11.9% swinging strike rate, and he pairs that with a very nice 56% ground ball rate. So he's a guy who can generate some swings and misses. When opponents do make contact, he's mitigating the launch angle, which you love to see. And the opponent tonight, the Minnesota Twins, look, you're not going to find someone higher on the Twins coming into this season than old Gary and Thorne. However, they have been destroyed by injuries. You take a look at this lineup right now, They're missing Joey Gallo. They're missing Kyle Farmer. Jorge Polanco hasn't even played a game for this team yet. Obviously, Max Kepler is also on the IL. And then, like, Carlos Correa has missed the last 3 games. I think he's going to play tonight, but Byron Buxton took a pretty hard fall yesterday, and I would assume he's not going to play in today's game. So there's just no one left in this Twins lineup. I think Brito can take advantage.
All right, Bukes, top tier bat. It appears you're going with someone who has a hit in at least 7 of the 11 games he's played in this year.
Yeah, riding a 4-game hitting streak coming into tonight. Jonathan India going with another Cincinnati Red, who, by the way, very rare occasion that they're actually favored for a particular game. They are favorites here tonight on DraftKings Sportsbook at -125. But India has put up some really solid numbers against lefties since coming up to Major League Baseball 2020. In about a season and a half that he's played now since being called up, 344 WOBA, 111 WRC plus against lefties. And the Phillies running out Bailey Falter has a career 340 WOBA against righties. 19 of the 23 home runs he's allowed. The thing that I don't like about Falter so much, and this is why I'm pretty much on the Reds here tonight, he's allowing a ton of hard contact already a 46% hard hit rate, and a lot of that hard contact came in that last start against the Reds. So I think the Reds are in a great spot from a pitching perspective, from a hitting perspective. I'd probably take them on the money line here tonight. That probably should have been my best bet. Why did I do this? I didn't even think about this. But I think India as a hitter, as one of the best hitters on the slate tonight, is definitely where you want to start.
Garion, you will not agree. Who are you going to pivot to?
I'll go middle infielder for middle infielder here. Let's talk Brendan Donovan.
Nice.
He's $4,600. Going to bat leadoff today for the St. Louis Cardinals, who are going up against the Pittsburgh Pirates. And while there's been a lot of very positive things about the Pirates so far this season, Vince Velasquez has not been one of those things. Vince Velasquez has struggled mightily, specifically with left-handed batters, giving up a 400 opponent batting average and a 549 WOBA to the 19 lefties he's faced in his first 2 starts. It's a small sample size, but guess what? We've got 5 years of sample that Vince Velasquez might be a better left fielder in Major League Baseball than he currently is a pitcher. I think all the left-handed bats in this Cardinals lineup are viable. You know, you can also use Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt if you want to. Just because they're right-handed doesn't mean they can't hit off Vince Velasquez. But I think Donovan at under 5K is in a really nice spot tonight.
All right, Bukes, won this 5-game slate tonight on DraftKings. Help save us some money here. Hook us up with a value bet.
Yeah, going right back to the Cardinals, Alec Burleson at 3,200. Seems like he's been getting the nod over Dylan Carlson when they're facing righties at this point. So this is a great matchup for him at only 3,200. He's been hitting the ball extremely well. I'm surprised he's not more expensive, but we'll take it because he's going to be hitting near the top of the lineup there, maybe most likely second, averaging 8.1 DraftKings fantasy points in the 8 games that he's played. And a lot of the hits that he's collected have gone for extra bases. 9 hits on the season, 5 of them for extra bases, a couple doubles, a triple, a home run. This is a big looking dude. Like, I'm, motoring out that triple. Hey, congrats to him. But like Garion just said, Vincent Velasquez going up against the mound throughout his career has just always struggled against lefties. That has not been something that he's been able to figure out. So getting Burleson at 3,200 tonight, hitting him probably in front of some of those big bats, he's going to be seeing plenty of pitches in this game. So give me him at 3,200 in the outfield.
All right, Garion, give me someone swinging good wood right now who's not going to cost a whole lot tonight.
Kerry Carpenter, who's really cheap. He's just $2,900. The Tigers cleanup hitter, which, let's be honest, doesn't mean a whole lot. However, Carpenter does have some serious pop. This is someone who across 3 levels last season, including the majors, hit 36 home runs. Chris Bassett looked better in his second start in the American League. Not great, though. Still walked a bunch of batters. He's someone who right now is giving up a 700 slugging percentage to opposing left-handed batters. 4 home runs already to lefties this season. It's just been really bleak. And I think Carpenter has had a really nice series in Toronto so far. We spent a lot of the offseason talking about what the new wall positioning in Rogers Center could do for power. Well, Carpenter hit a home run yesterday. He also just missed a home run on Tuesday. In fact, Kevin Kiermaier had to bring it back past the wall. I mean, he should have 2 home runs, 1 in each of his last 2 games. I think he's swinging the bat really well right now. And Chris Bassett, not exactly the most inspiring guy in the world. So a lot of upside there for less than 3K.
And you've always been a big fan of Kevin Kiermaier, right? Even before those Toronto days.
Yep. Always loved Kevin Kiermaier.
Always, yes.
Don't check my
No,
tweets.
no Kevin Kiermaier slander whatsoever if we dig deep into your timeline history.
Won't find it.
Favorite game bet on the DraftKings Sportsbook tonight, Bukes?
Yeah, Gary was just sitting here poo-pooing all over Chris Bassett when he's saying, we had a better start his last time out when you go 6 innings, allowed 2 runs, 3 earned, but walk 5 batters. Not a great start. But here's the thing. Detroit is that bad. They are just simply that bad that I am more than willing to back the Blue Jays on the run line tonight at -1.5. The Blue Jays haven't been great on the run line to start. They're 6-6 on the run line, but Detroit is 3-8. Detroit has the second worst run line record so far, only above the Rockies, okay? And even though Bassett has been just as bad as advertised, like that inflated ERA through the 2 starts of 10.61, yes, it's been just that bad. But he's facing a team that ranks dead last in runs scored. That is the Detroit Tigers. I don't care how much you're into baseball. You can't name 4 people in that lineup not named Spencer Torkelson at this point. That's just how bad that team is. Toronto hitting the cover off the ball. They're 4th in runs scored already this season. Spencer Turnbull is going to be taking the start for Detroit. He's going to put a lot of traffic on the base pass. He really can lose his command. And with the power that with the Toronto is hitting at, Detroit's not hitting for power at all. With the power that Toronto is hitting for right now, they should be able to easily put some numbers up against that bullpen and Turnbull. So give me the Blue Jays at -1.5 on the run line tonight.
All right, Garion, what do you want?
I'm going to take the under in the Yankees-Twins game. It's the total set at 8.5 right now. Already talked about how I like Johnny Brito and how I'm just afraid of what this Twins lineup might look like tonight because of the injuries. Joe Ryan has also been really good so far this season. Got a 2.48 expected ERA. He's striking out nearly 35% of the opponent batters he's seen through 2 starts in 2023. Really, he had 1 bad pitch to Yordan Alvarez with the bases loaded, and that's about the only mistake he's made so far this season. The Yankees lineup, sneaky middle of the pack, like, cool. I guess you've got, like, Franchi Cordero is finally good, and he's hitting in your 5 spot. Generally speaking, that's not the recipe for a great offensive team. These bullpens are also 2 of the best units in all of baseball. They both enter this game top 5 in ERA so far this season. So I don't think this is a total that we lose late in the game because a reliever comes out and just gets absolutely demolished. These are 2 of the better units we have in baseball.
Bukes, final question I have for you in your award-winning Put Up Your Buke segment. Favorite player prop today, dude?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Bo Bichette over 1.5 total
Yes.
bases tonight. Was just talking about how I like the Blue Jays, so obviously have to like some of the bats in this matchup here as well. He's already gone over this number in literally half the games that he's played. 6 of the 12 games, he's gone over 1.5 bases. He's been hitting for a lot of power as well. That was probably one of the bigger knocks on him last year. Only 24 home runs, but already in this young season, 4 home runs, 2 doubles for Bichette so far. Like I mentioned, Turnbull's going to put a lot of traffic on the base pass. I think this is a good recipe for Bichette to go over 1.5 bases here tonight.
I know you don't want to go against that, Garion, because he is talking your Blue Jays, but how about your player prop du jour?
We're going to go with, we're going to take a shot here. A big number at plus money. You know, I've been reading the new Diamond Digest article over at the DK Nation, written by our great Steve Buchanan, talking about stolen bases being up across baseball, the reasons XYZ. Right now, stealing against the Padres is about the easiest thing you can do in the world. Austin Nola is just terrible at throwing out base runners. Opposing base stealers are 15 for 16 already this season against Nola. So obviously you got to see if he's behind the plate tonight for the Padres. But if he is, Bryce Terang to steal a base at plus 350. I like it a lot. I can only technically pick one bet here, but I would also say Joey Wiemer at 4-1 to steal a base is also pretty tempting. Maybe even Christian Yelich, if you just want to like stack this across the board and see who's going to get the steal. Literally 3 stolen bases off of Austin Nola just yesterday. I think the Brewers probably realize they're onto something here, and they're going to keep doing it.
All right, Steven, your job here is done. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your Thirsty Thursday. Gary, we need you for some NBA talk coming up. And the real MVP of Chicago's win over your Raptors last night, and no, it was not Mr. Levine.
Yo, DraftKings, y'all got the most ways to bet on NBA players. I'm hyped. Hitting props, that's my dog. Stack up buckets, blocks, and boards on my boy? Or superstar going one-on-one against another superstar? Oh, it's on. And all these bets are on my man's dedicated page? Now you spoiling me, DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and bet $5 to win $150 in bonus bets on your team to win. Action's so good, why bet anywhere else? That's my move. He used my move.
You know, betting without a game plan is a little like skating a giant ramp without helmet and pads. I wouldn't risk it. And I wouldn't bet without a game plan. DraftKings Sportsbook provides you with tools to set a realistic budget and time limits, so you're ready to bet responsibly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook and Casino apps to learn more about how you can practice safe bets.
This season, DraftKings Sportsbook is your place to bet on the greatest sport on ice. There's so many ways to get closer to the game. And with this latest offer, you can win big. Now that is deserving of some victory stick taps.
Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, sign up with the promo code, and take advantage of this great offer.
And get in on the action with an official sports betting partner of the NHL.
With DraftKings Daily Fantasy Sports, you can play for millions with a lineup full of big NBA stars. Maybe you throw in a three-point specialist that's been around the league, seen a thing or two. You know, if you want. Download DraftKings and play for your share of millions. Action's so good, why play NBA anywhere else?
Folks, people, pal, bucko, buddy, entering last night, number 10 seed. A number 10 seed has never won a play-in game, right? So, of course, last night, both 10 seeds win their first game. We're talking about the Bulls and the Thunder. Let's get into it with DraftKings contributor Julian Edlow, Gary Thorne, Jeff Pratt. Good to have you three here. So, as I mentioned, one of those two 10 seeds winning last night was the Bulls, whose biggest X factor wasn't even on their freaking roster. DeMar DeRozan's 9-year-old daughter making ears bleed around the world, screaming at the top of her lungs every time Garion's Raptors were at the free throw line, and Toronto ended up missing 18 freaking free throws, and DeRozan's Bulls win by 4. Garion, how painful was that, figuratively and literally?
I mean, I was smart enough to just have a Bulls ticket at plus money, so that kind of lessened the burden a little bit. Look, yeah, she was great. Don't get me wrong. Like that old, I think it was the first Jackass movie where they were like air horning right in the backswing of golfers.
Yeah.
He had the timing down. Like she was screaming right before the release. So great for her. Literally saw that girl get raised. Hurts me. Pictures of her hanging up around the ACC for years. So clearly not a fan of the franchise after how they treated her father. But yeah, look, the Raptors stink. We knew this already. The Bulls stink too. All the teams in the play-in stink. That's kind of the like takeaway from this, and I'll apply it to betting later. But yeah, these are just not very good teams. Like I think we just have to keep reminding ourselves of that. The ending of the Minnesota game, the way the Raptors were shooting free throws, like flawed basketball, to be sure.
Jules, did DeRozan's daughter save Chicago's season last night?
To a degree, sure. 18 of 36 from the free throw line is 18 of 36 from the free throw line. Toronto should have won that game. Credit the Bulls for clawing back and executing in crunch time, but when you miss all those free throws, it kind of just hands it to you on a platter. So if I'm answering the question that is right there, I'm going to say the more impressive win was by OKC on the road in the way that they won their game versus the Bulls. Yes, winning the game, but doing so because it was gifted to them by 18 missed free throws.
Jeff, I know you scream like that at Celtics games, but do you side with Julian here?
I keep my composure.
Do you side with Julian here that OKC's win last night was more impressive than what Chicago did?
Absolutely. I mean, I would have picked the Thunder as the most impressive team, even if they had lost that game, to be honest. What OKC has built from top to bottom is just incredibly exciting. I've said it before on the show, and I'll say it again. I think Sam Presti is arguably the best GM in the NBA in my mind, and he's certainly the most underrated. Now, down the line, when he inevitably tears this up, just like he did with KD, Harden, and Russ, then we'll talk about it then. But as of right now, he's doing a fantastic job, and he's managed to assemble an incredible roster of talented young guys. They have the right guy coaching them in Mark Daigneault. And on top of that, OKC has like 15 first-round picks over the next 5 years. They've wildly outperformed preseason expectations. Anything else at this point is just icing on the cake. This offseason, they're going to get even better. You know, they're adding a former number 2 overall pick in Chet Holmgren, who I think people have forgotten about to an extent just because he missed the entire season. And they're adding multiple first-round picks, not only in free agency, but that's what they're doing this offseason. What they've done this season is incredible. And their win over the Pelicans, who looked like the only other competent team in the play-in. Sorry, Raptors. Sorry, Bulls. But I have nothing but positive things to say about OKC. I think they can beat this Wolves team in the next round, and then maybe give the Nuggets a somewhat tough matchup in the first round.
Okay, Jules, so now the final spot in the Eastern Conference playoff bracket is going to come down to a winner-go-home contest between the Bulls and the Heat tomorrow night. What's the showdown contest play in this one on DraftKings?
For a showdown play, I do want to go to the Miami side, and I think a lot of people might be, chasing a hot performance from Kyle Lowry, which I don't expect to necessarily be replicated. I'll look to the two guys that everybody is saying played horrible the other night. Give me a Bam, give me a Jimmy Butler, whichever one you want to bounce back in a home game against these Bulls. I think these Friday night games in more ways than one, and we'll discuss DFS plays and bets for all of them, are going to be spots to zig when everyone else is zagging.
All right, Gary, what do you think?
I do think Bam can sort of have a variance performance here, just with the, again, like Julian said, the general conceit that he was terrible in that game. The Bulls play that really small starting lineup. I think Bam can really do some damage on the offensive glass. That being said, I think Tyler Hero is probably my favorite dollar for dollar play in this contest. Didn't necessarily start that game against the Hawks all that well, but still finished with a pretty good performance. He doesn't have the highest price tag when it comes to him in the captain's slot, if you want to consider that, and finished that game with a team high 35% usage rate. Hero's out there to score. He's going to get picked on. He's going to get isolated on defense. He's going to be a focal point of that offense. And as Julian said as well, I don't think you can expect 30 points from Kyle Lowry again. And I think a lot of that scoring load is going to fall at the feet of Tyler Hero. All
right, Pratt, what's the DFS play tomorrow night?
Yeah, I'm with all of these guys. I think you have to pay up for one of these higher priced options. And I'm going back to Jimmy Butler, despite a truly horrible performance last game. I swear I've never seen an NBA superstar miss so many layups and bunnies in one game. He looked disinterested at times. And one thing that we almost never see from Jimmy in these must-win situations is letting his frustration get the best of him. But that's exactly what happened in that last game. But all of that said, despite a truly bad offensive performance, he still finished with 44 fantasy points. He had 9 assists. It's not like he's incredibly expensive tomorrow. He's only $9K. So I'm going to give Jimmy the benefit of the doubt because we have consistently seen him show up in clutch situations throughout his career.
Jules, what's your favorite bet for Chicago at Miami here?
Give me the Heat. If you want to use them as a money line parlay piece, go for it. I'll lay the 5.5. Chicago swept the season series 3-0 from the Miami Heat. One of them was a punt game from the Heat. Let's look at the ticket count. You can find the DraftKings Sportsbook's betting splits on vsin.com. 76% of the bets are on the Bulls for 82% of the handle with the points. Let's go to the money line. 57% of the bets for 73% of the handle. Everybody's on the Bulls. Everybody wants to go with, it's the playing around how this works, the Friday night game. We always have a worse team coming off a win, and in this sense, it's not even the 9 seed, it's the 10 seeds. A worse team coming off a win that is the trendy play now because everybody just watched them get that Wednesday night win, going on the road to play, in this case, a Miami team that was home on Tuesday, extra day of rest, no travel, and the better team. Jimmy Butler is going to bounce back from that game that he had. I think everybody is just going against the Heat now because of one game, and they're in a much better spot travel and rest-wise than the Bulls who have to come from Toronto down to Miami, longest travel you can possibly imagine in the Eastern Conference, and play this game. I think that it's a great bounce back spot for the Heat.
Pratt, Heat are 5.5-point favorites currently. Who are you giving the edge to in the DK Sportsbook?
Yeah, I know that Julian is much more confident in picking a winner of this and obviously going with Miami. I want nothing to do with predicting the outcome of this game, to be honest. Both of these teams are incredibly inconsistent, so no money line, no spread for me. I understand that Miami is the better team and they should win this game, but they also should have won their last game pretty handily, and we saw how that turned out. So I'm just staying away from that. One thing I think that kind of flew under the radar in Tuesday's Heat-Hawks game, because Kyle Lowry was dominating and everyone was focusing on that, was Tyler Hero's performance. And Garion alluded to that. He finished with 26 points on really efficient shooting, 12 for 23 from the field. It's fair to assume that the Bulls are going to try to hone in on Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo defensively and just let Hero pick his spots to a certain extent. Now, we'll see if that's effective whatsoever, but if that is the case, he should be able to somewhat cruise to 20-plus points. His points prop is set at 19.5 on DraftKings Sportsbook. He takes the shots to get there. I would roll with him to go over that total instead of risking it with a Jimmy Butler, whose points prop is pretty inflated despite having a really bad game on Tuesday.
Gary, and this one could be a rock fight here. What's your move on the DK Sportsbook?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's the square play at this point. And I agree with Jules that probably too many people are pumping Chicago's tires, but I really don't think this is about Chicago or Miami. I think this is just about a lesson in the play-in tournament structure in general. There's a reason dogs were 4-0 ATS against the spread the last 2 days. It's because all these teams are basically the same. Like, I just don't think there is a good or bad team in this group. I don't think the Heat are better than the Bulls. I think the Heat showed themselves to be a pretty bad team throughout the entirety of the regular season when their offensive rating was basically the worst of any team actively trying to win games. Like, these are two flawed franchises and two flawed rosters. I'll just take the 5.5 points. Again, when you're dealing with two teams that are both not very good, just give me the points. I think you looked at, I know personally, like last night's game between the Raptors and the Bulls. Why are the Raptors favored by 6? What have they done to deserve that? Lakers, Timberwolves. Why are the Lakers favored by 8.5 or 9 points? What have they done to deserve this? I know you have to make a favorite. I know home court advantage is a thing, but 5.5 points is way too many to lay with the Heat. It has been all season.
All right, Gary, and let's shift over to OKC in Minnesota. Who is your DFS play in this one?
I'm going to go with another guy in sort of the low 8K tier who you can possibly play at captain, and that's Kyle Anderson, who seemed like, honestly, the most crucial player on the court for the Timberwolves for most of that game. I know you can hold the last 6 minutes against him just as much as anybody else, maybe even more, because he's sort of the de facto point guard on this team, even when Mike Conley is on the court. But Kyle Anderson played more minutes than anyone in that game against against the Lakers. And I don't think Rudy Gobert coming back is going to impact his minutes. I think that's more of a Taurean Prince problem than anything. So I think he's probably too cheap for what his role is. And again, he's got the potential for some huge box scores. He did have 3 triple-doubles throughout the regular season. So there's a high ceiling with a guy like Kyle Anderson, even if he's not the most prolific scorer in the world.
Jeff, your DFS play for Thunder and Wolves, please.
Yeah, unlike the other game, which is probably going to be an ugly defensive battle, you really have a luxury of options from a matchup standpoint of the 4 most expensive players on the board. Each of them are in terrific spots. I think I'm going to stay away from Minnesota from a DFS standpoint, although I do like the Kyle Anderson pick. Anthony Edwards was obviously horrible in that Lakers game, and Rudy Gobert will be back, so that's going to affect Karl Anthony Towns to an extent. So that leaves me with Shea and Josh Giddey. I think I'm going to roll with Giddey just because he's $1,500 cheaper than Shea. And Josh has always had more DFS potential than Shea because of his playmaking abilities, presence on the board, and we saw that in full effect last night. He almost had a 31-point triple-double, just finishing 1 rebound shy. So if the Wolves are smart, they're going to see how the Pelicans effectively doubled Shea for virtually 2 entire quarters last night and took him out of the game. And they're going to try to do the exact same thing. And if that happens, Giddey should be in a position to take advantage of it and put together a pretty big night.
Julian, who would you definitely roster in this game?
I'll just go again, like the guy like Jimmy Butler that had the awful night the other night that nobody's talking about is Anthony Edwards, whose point prop is set at 26.5 on DK Sportsbook, which is the highest in the game outside of SGA. So again, I'll just go with the guy that people don't seem to be talking about. Team in a bounce back spot in the home game. I think that Anthony Edwards should be in a good spot here. And I think a lot of those OKC guys that put up such good numbers in that game will be a little more popular than usual. It's hard to gauge ownership in these like one game postseason showdowns, but I think Anthony Edwards coming off the poor performance, people might go to Towns where some of that goes to Gobert, like the guys referenced. I'll go with Anthony Edwards here in a bounce back spot.
All right, guys, let's go quick on this last one. We're running tight on time. Jules, DK Sportsbook play for Thunder and Wolves.
Same deal. I know these guys are saying that all the teams are the same and the underdogs are 4-0 ATS for a reason. I'm taking the better team in the home spot with all the hype on OKC. I'm going to go with the Timberwolves here.
Garion.
I'm going to go with Anthony Edwards to go over his points prop. I think this is just a better game environment. I think OKC has a much weaker defense than the Lakers. Similar pace, though, which is really important. This is someone who over the final 4 games of the season was averaging 29 points per game with a 40% usage rate. I was shocked to see him so passive. He doesn't seem like the guy who was going to be scared of the moment. And he kind of was in that play-in game. I think he kind of course corrects in this contest.
Jeff, what are you going to bet on here?
Yeah, whatever the line is for Rudy Gobert rebounds, just take it. I understand there's some tension here, and he could not play as much as he usually does coming back from suspension, but Jonas Valanciunas had 18 boards in 30 minutes last night. Gobert has like a 4-inch height advantage over Jalen Williams. Barring foul trouble, he's going to rack up a ton of rebounds.
All right,
That'll be 12.5 if you're interested in the number.
12.5? Okay.
There
He's
you go.
going way over that.
All right, love you guys.
An alternate, 15.5.
Thank you so much, Jules. We got to take a break. It's the end of an era in the Windy City. We'll tackle a jam-packed slate around the NHL right after Golic and Smitty tackle the Live versus PGA storyline from Augusta National.
The added thing to me, Jess, was Live versus PGA. Was it now? You couldn't really hear any of it there. It didn't seem like they were booing any Live players, but I remember asking the question out on Twitter, not for the people that were there, but people that were watching, were you automatically rooting against the Live players? And I would say 90% were, but 10% were like, no. They, listen, they made business decisions.
90% though.
Oh yeah, we're against it.
That's more than I would expect.
Me too. And what else was interesting? Did the network get on this? So here you had a 52-year-old Phil Mickelson, who I believe had the best placing of a guy that old in a Masters, and he didn't get, and his round finished well before the other guys, so there was time, and CBS didn't interview him.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a little surprising to me. That was kind of a, we're saying without saying that we're not interviewed because of the Live stuff, right? I mean, why else would they not be?
Or Phil doesn't want to talk to them because of their coverage, because he's got beef with guys on that network because of everything that's happened in the last year. It could go both ways.
That's a good point. You know what?
I could tell you, listening to the pre-Sunday coverage, I did get the sense that they didn't want to play up that storyline. They didn't want, like, CBS did not want, and I think I might have been watching Golf Channel actually. They didn't want to play that up, but they also seemed like they were really invested in John Rahm on Sunday morning.
Without a doubt. I think without a doubt.
It's the end of an era in the Windy City. The Chicago Blackhawks will not re-sign longtime captain and pending unrestricted free agent Jonathan Toews in the summer. GM Kyle Davidson announcing in a statement you can see on your screen. That was from this morning. DraftKings contributor Jeff Ulrich, NHL.com's Pete Jensen, RotoWire's AJ Scholes. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. So we knew Chicago was rebuilding, but we're still talking about the only player left on their roster from their 3-time Stanley Cup winning dynasty. So how will you remember his time with the Blackhawks, Jeff?
I remember Jonathan Toews, or I will remember Jonathan Toews as just one of the most complete two-way players in hockey. I mean, I'll always remember him, in some of those playoff battles, especially against Vancouver, in the early 2010, 2013, just doing some unbelievable things. was never the most dynamic offensive player, but at the same time, just did so much for his team, regardless of that. He really is probably still underrated, just considering the offense that we've had over the last few years. People kind of forget just the two-wayedness of Jonathan Taves that he brought to the table.
Pete, how would you describe the Taves era in Chicago?
I mean, unbelievable playoff success. It was one of the great dynasties of the modern era. The Kings had 2, the Penguins have 3, the Lightning, right, 3 straight trips to the Stanley Cup final and 2 championships. But that one really stands alone, I think, to me. It was Kane and Taves were a big duo, but the cool thing about them were they were usually playing on separate lines with balanced scoring, clutch performances in the playoffs, unrivaled across the league. So that was the cool thing. And it was like Kane, Taves, Duncan Keith running the offense, and then usually Corey Crawford on the back end. And he was not the best of the best goaltender. So I think it just speaks to the lineup around him, and Taves was the leader of the crew.
AJ, he hasn't played since late January. Last month, he announced he was stepping away to deal with the effects of long COVID. What are the chances he looks to play elsewhere, dude?
I absolutely think he will. He'll probably, obviously he's going to have to take a reduced salary, right? He's got that $10 million cap hit. But somebody will give him a deal. Somebody will bring him in for a year in hope that, health-wise he can stay in there. To Jeff's point, he's one of like a handful of guys not named Patrice Bergeron to win the Selke Trophy in the last 10 years. So a great defensive forward who also had some scoring prowess. I would say arguably the best player from that 2006 draft class. That includes, Nicholas Backstrom, Phil Kessel, Milan Lucic, and I think a strong argument could be made that Jonathan Taves was the best of that group.
Well, guys, as for tonight, this was regularly scheduled to be the final day of the regular season. There are 2 more games tomorrow. Stanley Cup playoff field, though. It is locked in. It is set thanks to the Islanders' 4-2 win over the Canadiens, which officially eliminated the Penguins, AJ, from postseason contention. First time since 2006. Hot damn. So let's get to some of y'all's favorite plays heading into the final ginormous slate of the year. AJ, I'll let you have the honors here at center.
Well, I'm going to look for a slightly lower cost option compared to the top of the price board and go with Jack Hughes here, 8,300. He's significant savings when you've got McDavid and McKinnon up there for 10K. 7-game point streak for him, includes 5 power play points. It's a decent matchup for the Devils tonight, albeit on the road against Washington, but they have a chance to clinch the Metro Division title. It's been a long time since they've been in the mix for that. If you want to go further down the price range here, Matty Beniers is 5,100, decent value spot here as well. 4 goals in his last 8 contests. But I think Hughes is the the upper price range guy that I would pay for.
Jeff, last time the Penguins missed the playoffs, our guy Connor McDavid was just 9 years old. He is on the slate tonight. He is of legal age now.
Our guy. I love it. It's true. He is our guy. Look, I think just with the 15-game slate, I actually think it's fine to go off Connor McDavid. Obviously, it's in just an absolute crush spot here. The Oilers can't be beat at this point. They can still win the division. They're going to be going for it with San Jose. But I like going down even further. Tim Stützle at 7,500. Look, tonight is all about narratives to me, the player prop market. Tim Stützle needs 2 goals to hit the 40-goal mark. He's going to get them because he's playing the Buffalo Sabres. We had an over-under of 7 here. The Sabres have a bottom 6 penalty kill as well. The Senators don't have anything to play for. Their teammates know that Tim Stützle's been carrying the team on their back. They want him to get this. I think this is a great play, quite frankly, and I think you should be looking to him in like the goal prop market as well. So Stützle at 7,500, one of my favorite. Also Tyler Seguin at 4,800 looks just way too cheap. Put up 2 points, 4 shots on goal against St. Louis in their last game. These 2 teams just played. Dallas still has something to play for too. Seguin at 4,800, just way too cheap.
Hey, Pete, I'm not sure there's a whole lot at stake tonight for most teams. How does that impact your strategy when picking your center?
Right. You got to be careful that the teams that you're rostering guys from are either in some sort of playoff contention or that they're not injured, and keep a keen eye on it leading up to puck drop 6:30, 6:45. Make sure nobody has that red flag next to their name in your DraftKings lineup. But yeah, Rupe Hintz is one guy to me. he helps make that Dallas Stars offense go. They have a lot to play for here. If they can win and Colorado can lose one of their final 2 games, they might win the Central Division. So, and Rupe Hintz just all year long keeps chugging along, 38 points in 36 home games. He's got, a nice matchup against the non-contending St. Louis Blues, who give up a lot of goals, 10 points in his past 10 games. And I love the price point, 6,700, and exposure to Jason Robertson.
Well, in the wings and things department, Jeff, what's the move tonight?
The move is to stay on the narrative, Emerson, and to roster Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who is at 37 goals and needs 3 goals to get to 40 goals. And he's playing the San Jose Sharks. And, oh, yeah, he's on the Oilers, and Connor McDavid is his teammate. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, 7,100. I love this play. I really do. Again, this is what teams are playing for. They like their teammates. The hockey players get along. They want to see them succeed. The Oilers are probably going to be up like 4-1 in this game at some point. And Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, if he has a goal at that point, is going to be getting fed the puck relentlessly, trying to get him to this mark. So I really like that play. Also, if you want to look down further, Andrei Kuzmenko needs 1 goal to hit the 40-goal mark. He's 5,100. And, oh, yeah, he's playing the Arizona Coyotes. So some value there as well. Another guy to look at, Alex DeBrincat. A little bit more of a long shot, needs 3 goals to hit 30. But, also in a good spot playing Buffalo.
Pete, who are you taking on the wing tonight?
Couple guys I feel like are lineup locks for me. Jared McCann, one of the many surprising 40-goal scorers this season for the Seattle Kraken. Of course, make sure he's playing, because Seattle, I mean, they could move up a little bit in the standings, but you never know. They might rest some guys. But keep an eye on McCann. Also, Sam Reinhart, a lot to play for the Florida Panthers. We've been riding the hot hand with them down the stretch all season long. Some of those other guys have been a little spotty. Luosterainen, Duclair, guys like that, Lindell. But Sam Reinhart, 12 points in his past 10 games, brings a lot of exposure to either Barkov or Matthew Tkachuk, even strength and power play 1. What's not to like?
AJ, who are you looking at?
Yeah, I love what these guys are selling with both their recommendations here. I'm going to throw one GPP play out here. I wouldn't use this in cash games, but Val Nichushkin tonight coming in at 6,500 rather. 5-game goal drought, so struggling a bit, but he's got 3.6 shots per game over that stretch. Plenty of pucks on net. The Avs still have a chance to win the top spot in the Central. They're playing at home. It is against a playoff team in Winnipeg, so it's not an easy matchup for them tonight. But I think Nichushkin could be kind of a sneaky insert into the lineup. I expect those goals will come eventually for him.
Well, Pete, who sits atop your blue liner rankings this evening?
There are a couple guys. I really like the way that Evan Bouchard has been playing in recent weeks. 9 points in his past 10 games. Gets a lot of first power play time in Edmonton, whereas prior to the Tyson Barrie trade, it was Tyson Barrie running the show and leading all defensemen in power play points. He went off to Nashville. The team got better overall by adding Matthias Ekholm, but it kind of indirectly benefited Evan Bouchard, who I was really high on in the preseason, disappointed by his usage and performance as a result early in the season. But now he's hitting his full stride, most important time of year. If they get this kind of Evan Bouchard in the playoffs, they could go as high as the Stanley Cup final or higher. It's pretty exciting to think about the ceiling of the Oilers with Bouchard performing at this level.
AJ, which defenseman you going to roster tonight?
Well, Pete mentioned some of the Florida Panthers, and I'm going to look to them for my defenseman here tonight. Brandon Montour, he's not exactly cheap at 6,800 here, but he's in the midst of a 7-game point streak. Again, tough matchup with Carolina, but again, the Cats are playing at home. If you want to save some salary here, I'd go with teammate Aaron Ekblad at 5,800. Obviously not the same level of point production of late, but 3 shots per game over his last 5 contests. Should have a pretty decent floor heading into this one.
All right, give us a blue liner to target, please.
Yeah, I definitely like staying in the mid to value tier for the blue liner. I don't know why Evan Bouchard is only 4K, but as Pete mentioned, I mean, he's almost a must play down there. I think the Colorado defenseman, again, the Jets, lower scoring team, but the Jets have nothing to play for. They're probably going to be starting a backup, maybe a third stringer tonight in net, who they could even be resting starters here. It's a nothing game for Winnipeg. Samuel Girard is 3,900. You could certainly look to Bowen Byram there as well. So I think both of the Colorado defensemen, all 3 of them really, Devin Taves, obviously a little bit more expensive, but all 3 of them in play. I also like looking at Seth Jones tonight. We just finished talking about the Blackhawks. A little bit of narrative there with the Jonathan Taves angle. Look, they're playing the Philadelphia Flyers here. So Seth Jones has proven that he's got a lot of upside. So I really don't hate it. He's not very expensive, and you get a little bit of exposure to a team that's going up against a very weak, obviously defense and goaltending duo on the other side. I think Seth Jones is actually a pretty solid target considering he's only 5,500.
AJ, I say best game for stacking. You say what?
I say probably New Jersey. I like their matchup tonight. I think they've got plenty to still play for here with that top spot available. And I think there's a ton of options. You've got Dougie Hamilton on the back line. You've got Timo Meier available. Hughes, obviously, I mentioned off the top. So I think there's a lot of guys in the mix on this Devils team that you could take advantage of tonight.
Jeff, which game makes the most sense to you for stacking?
So I don't know about necessarily game stack, but I mean, in terms of just like team stack or power play or first line stack, mean, I'm going to go with the Vancouver Canucks. Mentioned Kuzmenko, but you can pair him with Elias Peterson. You can pair him with Quinn Hughes. You get exposure to the first line power play of the Vancouver Canucks going up against the Arizona Coyotes, who have the sixth worst penalty kill in the league. I mean, look, the Canucks are no gem defensively themselves, but this is a team that's averaged, over 3.3 goals per game over the last 20 games of the season. Their top line with Peterson and Kuzmenko has proven time and time again they can produce, and it's really just a cost-effective trio. I forgot to mention Quinn Hughes when we were talking about defensemen. He's only 5,400. Power play specialist, great spot tonight. Love that trio and love getting exposure to the Vancouver offense.
Pete, what's your move here?
I think whether you're playing season long or DFS, you got to look at the Colorado Avalanche these next two nights. They have a chance to win the Central Division despite all the injury absences they've had. They can make up for it here. They probably won't have Makar, but you guys were talking about it earlier. Bowen Byram, I love. JT Compher for a value. He's been playing well down the stretch. Look at Arturi Lehkonen. He's been out for a while with an injury, but he could be returning for these as kind of like a tune-up for the playoffs over these last two games. So pick him up in your season long, pick him up in DFS. I think Colorado is one of those teams that's going to get the job done over these last two games. They're one of the only teams left in the league that have 2 games remaining. So take notice of that, and I think they'll try to make the most of it.
All right, let's go rapid fire on this last one, gentlemen. Jeff, who's putting one in net tonight?
I mean, I've already given you like a million different goal props.
You have.
I'll just go with Andrei Kuzmenko as my favorite. He needs 1 goal, like I said, to hit 40. Look, he gets the maybe the best matchup on the board. He's playing the Coyotes, so I'll go Kuzmenko from Vancouver.
AJ, who's putting the biscuit in the basket?
I'm gonna go with 50 goal scorer Mikko Rantanen. We've heard all about why Colorado's a good team to use tonight. I think he'll get number 55 tonight.
Pete, bring us home, my dude.
I will go with Jacob Vrana for the St. Louis Blues. I just love so much what I've seen from this guy. He scored a goal against Dallas in a previous game. He's been so good from the goal scoring department since joining the St. Louis Blues and kind of redeeming himself after things went wrong in Detroit. So it's been a great story of perseverance, and I like Jacob Vrana to finish the season strong tonight.
All right, Pete, Jeff, love you guys, mean it. AJ, your NHL team is done. Your EPL team is struggling to keep its head above water. Let's get your match week 31 best bets coming up after our final break.
Yo, DraftKings, y'all got the most ways to bet on NBA players. I'm hyped. Hitting props, that's my dog. Stack up buckets, blocks, and boards on my boy, or superstar going one-on-one against another superstar. Oh, it's on. And all these bets are on my man's dedicated page? Now you spoiling me, DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and bet $5 to win $150 in bonus bets on your team to win. Action's so good, why bet anywhere else? That's my move. He used my move.
You know, betting without a game plan is a little like skating a giant ramp without helmet and pads. I wouldn't risk it. And I wouldn't bet without a game plan. DraftKings Sportsbook provides you with tools to set a realistic budget and time limits, so you're ready to bet responsibly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook and Casino apps to learn more about how you can practice safe bets.
This season, DraftKings Sportsbook is your place to bet on the greatest sport on ice. There's so many ways to get closer to the game. And with this latest offer, you can win big. Now that is deserving of some victory stick taps.
Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, sign up with the promo code, and take advantage of this great offer.
And get in on the action with an official sports betting partner of the NHL.
With DraftKings Daily Fantasy Sports, you can play for millions with a lineup full of big NBA stars. Maybe you throw in a three-point specialist that's been around the league, seen a thing or two. You know, if you want. Download DraftKings and play for your share of millions. Action's so good, why play NBA anywhere else?
If it's a Premier League Match Week 31 betting preview you are after, you have come to the right place. RotoWire's AJ Scholes has returned back on the horn. We're approaching the final few months of the campaign here, dude. It's super tight, really, up and down the table. I was looking at it before the show, and given their current position in the standings here, both Aston Villa and Newcastle would love to win this thing. So what you betting, and what some are calling the game of the weekend here?
It's hard to argue with that. You've got a team trying to track down a European spot here. Newcastle trying to hold on to theirs. They're by no means guaranteed for the Champions League. So in terms of play here, I'm going to stick with the same bet that got me a sweaty boot win last week, and that's Ole Watkins of Aston Villa to score a goal. It comes in at a little better odds than last week, plus 185. You have to consider the fact that Newcastle has given up the fewest goals of any team in the league this season, but Watkins will be looking for his 10th goal in 12 matchups. I think he can continue this trend and put one into the netting here.
How about a play in Chelsea and Brighton? You got a couple teams coming off EPL losses last week.
Well, Chelsea's been spiraling out of control lately to the point where they decided to bring back Frank Lampard for the end of the year. You're talking about a guy who was sacked by a relegation team just a month ago, 2 months ago now, and he's going to be the guy to carry them through to the end of the season. So for all of those reasons, I think you just take Brighton to win this one at plus 165. If you want to take the draw off the table, I don't blame you for that. You go draw no bet here on Brighton, it's minus 110. You actually get the same minus 110 odds for Chelsea here. So basically, we're looking at a coin toss. I think Brighton comes out on top.
All right, dude. After failing to spoil Manchester United's party here, your Everton squad will look to move away from the danger zone when they take on Fulham. What's a bet you think that could be profitable for the people in this match?
Well, look, Everton have been better under Sean Dyche since he took over. Last week's 2-0 defeat to Man United. It's hard to blame them too much when you consider United have lost just once at home this season. So I think Everton is going to come back from this one. They're back at home inside the confines of Goodison Park. So I'll take Everton plus 105 to get even money here. I think it's the best value you can get out of this one. They should be able to Sean Dyche their way to a 1-0, maybe 2-0 win in this contest.
What's another significant match this weekend? And tell us your betting approach for it.
Well, it's hard to ignore Manchester City against Leicester. I know we're talking top and bottom of the table here, but City has a match in hand against Arsenal here. They can't afford to fall any further behind. Meanwhile, the Foxes need every point they can get to try and get out of the relegation zone. You're obviously not taking money line on City on this one. Minus 575 last time I looked at it. They are at home, huge favorites. Having said that, you also have to consider Haaland is a ridiculous minus 400 to score a goal. Consider looking to him to get 2 or more. You can finally get some value at plus 110 out of here. I would also consider the overall match total over 3.5 comes in at minus 110. Hey, maybe Haaland gets a hat trick and gets you most of the goals that you need on the way to hitting that total.
Is there a game on this weekend slate, though, that you're fading, just not feeling, you're staying away from?
I really don't want anything to do with the Leeds and Liverpool matchup. Everything about this says Liverpool should win, including them being minus 140 on the DK Sportsbook. But this is a squad that hasn't won a match since March 5th. But in that game, they absolutely dismantled Man United 7-0. So which Liverpool team are we going to see here? I have no confidence in them, so I'm kind of staying away from this one. I will say, having said that, Leeds for the upset is an intriguing plus 330 on the money line here. Not sure I'm confident enough to take it, but it offers some intrigue. But overall, fading this one. Liverpool, too many attacking options to really get any good value or good insight as to who might score for them if they do, in fact, win this game.
AJ, it is time to do that thing we like, your favorite play this weekend, also known as your sweaty boot selection. You delivered the win last week. No Chinmay on the show today. He's an absolute coward, so it is time to bury him, AJ.
Yeah, I can't miss this one. Have to take advantage of him not being here. And so I'm going to dig the knife a little further. And I'm going to use his Arsenal, his Gunners here in this one. Looking at the game parlays for this matchup, I'm a little surprised that the line is not as far away when you consider West Ham has been in relegation battle for most of the season. Arsenal obviously top of the table. So you can get a game parlay, Arsenal to win in over 2.5 total goals comes in at plus 140. That's going to be my sweaty boot pick. If you want to be a little safer, Arsenal to win in over 1.5 goals is still good value at minus 115. But let's go for some positive value here. Arsenal and over 2.5 goals plus 140 on the DK Sportsbook.
Hell yeah, brother. Nice work. Appreciate you being here. That is a show, everybody. Great work by everyone, especially Jesse Cofield. We're back here tomorrow morning in studio, 11 o'clock Eastern time. We'll see you then.